What is the most uncomfortable slash unpleasant way you've ever found out somebody has a crush on you? A girl I knew back in high school was a notorious stalker. My friend circle tended to be the main targets of this stalking. She obviously got all her ideas off romance from teen romance novels and TV shows, because she would bombard these guys with songs, poetry, and straight-up professions of love. She was even the type to count the curls in a guy's hair when sitting in class. She once sent my best friend an email asking about an assignment with some hidden white text that read, "I am a brown dragon, and you are my rider." Also sent a 3-page threat letter to a girl who went to homecoming with another friend. Let's fast forward a few years. I was engaged, and somehow Stalker Gal is too. We're both about 20, and she sends me a message on Facebook saying, "You were one of the only one of your friends that I never tried to pursue, and I regret it every day." I responded, what? She then unfriended and blocked me. Best of luck to that psycho. Recently, a girl I knew from school broke up with her boyfriend. She got really drunk and started flirting with me through text messages. When I did not respond accordingly, I stopped hearing from her. Then she showed up at my apartment and said, "Do you like that? So, you like when I flirt with you like that?" One step above, "You like that, you idiot?" I was in my second year of university and lived in the dorms. It was right around Halloween, and the guy was someone I'd met at my quad's Halloween party. We talked a little bit, but I spent most of my time talking to friends. A lot of it making plans for where we were going to go after our after party. Guy I made plans to meet up in a few days for lunch. Over the next few days, I keep finding notes on my door. Nothing too bad, just enough to weird me out. Stuff like, "You have a beautiful laugh." When normally the notes people left on my door were more along the lines of, "I grabbed X from the store for you," or "Can I borrow your mixing bowls," etc., etc. Anyways, I came down with this nasty stomach bug, puking my guts out and trying not to turn it into diarrhea. It hit the night before the lunch meeting with the guy. I lasted about 36 hours. I sent the guy a message saying I'm sick. Could we reschedule for another time, maybe on the weekend? I never got a response, but a few hours later, I heard a knock on my door. The guy proceeds to sit outside my door for several hours, trying to get me to let him in. The first 20 minutes or so, it seemed sweet. But when I left at one point to run to the bathroom, it did not end up being nearly so sweet. He went into my room and was making himself comfy in my bed. When I came back, he held his arms out and said he'd make everything better. No. I got my RA's boyfriend who lived in her room with her to help get the guy out. Guy stayed away for about an hour, aka until the RA's boyfriend left for work, and spent the next several hours just sitting outside my room, blocking the doorway and leaving me feeling trapped in my own room. Well, eventually he finally left. I felt so nervous going in and out of my room for a couple weeks afterwards, though. Quad staff and uni police were not at all helpful. My RA and her boyfriend had my back, and I was on good terms with a lot of the guys in my building. 3/4 of the building was male, which is what ended helping me the most. RA and boyfriend kept an eye on my room, and my RA would text me if she saw the creeper on our floor. My guy friends had the same similar classes as me, so I always had at least one person who was willing to walk me into campus near our quad, and we usually went to lunch and dinner in groups of 3+. Still, it took until about Valentine's Day for the creeper to finally leave me alone. I have a few to share. I seem to be a weirdo magnet. One I haven't talked about much, if at all. On here is a girl, and I knew her as an undergrad. I wouldn't say we were friends, but we knew each other from various campus groups. There's a restaurant near campus that does cheap, decent sushi from like 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. And one night, she texted me asking if I wanted to go with her and some other acquaintances and friends. I said sure, but when I showed up, she was the only one there. She stated that everyone else, supposedly like 5 other people were coming, couldn't make it. Cue one of the most awkward 40-ish minutes of my life. given she has Asperger's, so maybe that's why she thought it was a good idea. Me and my brother are reminiscing about high school times. Brother asked me if I remember this one girl. I'm like, yeah, vaguely. I know who she is, but never really spoke to her. Brother mentions that this girl was obsessed with me, like asked my brother constantly what I did that day. Started actually losing weight, hoping I would notice her in some way. Even kept taking photos of me, and asked my brother what kind of girls I'm into. I had absolutely no idea, at all. To me, she was just someone I knew of that sometimes hung out in the same group my brother did. In middle school, a friend of mine was given a love note by a boy with a learning disability that his mom helped him write. He got the teacher to let him stand up and read it to her in front of the class. She was mortified. Maybe in high school, everyone would have been mature enough to be understanding of that, but not in middle school. A guy in my class followed me out after an exam, and because of my previous encounters, I went into another building to get away from him. When I came out 10 minutes later, thinking the coast was clear, I started walking again. I looked up ahead and he was just staring at me. I looked away and kept walking, only to realize he was hiding behind a tree, waiting for me to catch up to him. He then came out from behind the tree, didn't even say anything to me, but walked next to me, and then followed me to another building to ask if he could walk with me. He then asked me out, and I declined. I was in a study abroad program in college with about 55 students. It's a small house, people talk. This dude had been telling people that we dated for 6 months, but that we just broken up so that they should not say anything to me because I was still heartbroken. As if that would have not gotten back to me. And guess what? One of my housemates was my roommate the year before, during the window where he and I supposedly dated, and so she knew he was lying. I called him out on the lies, and he actually had the balls to tell me that he had feelings for me, and that talking about us dating was the closest he thought he'd ever get to actually dating me. What the hell? A guy I've known in passing for a few years invited me to hang out with him. His roommate I was better friends with, and roommate's girlfriend. I got sick, and he drove me home, where he then spent the hour just confessing that he's been in love with me for years. We've spoken maybe 24 times by word, and was pushed to action when he heard my boyfriend was going to propose soon. I don't know what his plan was, like he thought I'd break up with my boyfriend of 3 years. I tried staying friends, but he made it so weird, which is sad. He was a pretty cool guy, but did not understand boundaries at all. At the beginning of this school year, there was a girl that I wanted to ask out, but I didn't know her super well. So I decided to ask out one of our mutual friends for her opinion on it. I went up to her and said, "Hey, I was wanting to ask you something," and her face immediately lit up, and I realized that I may have made a mistake. I mentioned that I was thinking of asking the other girl out, and my friend immediately got super quiet, which never happens with her, and just said, "Oh, yeah, she's really pretty." I felt so bad, and I could not talk to her for like a week because of it. But her and I have gotten closer since then and are actually going on a date next week. So, I guess it didn't end up bad, being terrible in the long run. When I was 13, this kid that was friends with my younger brother and sister used to creepy stare at me, and when we'd go over to his house to hang out. He thought he was smooth for some reason, and would try to put his arms around my shoulders and sit really close to me, or try some other equally awkward move he probably saw on Saved by the Bell. All I remember him for is being the chubby kid who laid on the floor and stuck his butt under the bed for no reason. When I asked why, he was just like, "I gotta fart." Like, what other reason did you think, girl? Makes total sense, I guess. Of course, 4 years later, puberty hit, and suddenly he was a total babe. And then I became the creepy, awkward one because he was that attractive. Yeah, fun times. One day, when I was a sophomore, right after getting all sweaty during PE, my class headed towards the lockers and I got stopped by this senior who slicked back hair in a suit holding a flower. He told me that he was in JROTC, a class near my PE class, and had watched me from afar and wanted my number. I've never met or even seen this guy in my life. Well, I gave him my number and remained convinced for the next few hours that this was all leading up to some Carrie-esque prank. Then he became my on and off boyfriend, but then he broke my heart, so duck him. At my 16th birthday party, one of my best friends of like 2 years at the time was planning to ask me out. All of my other friends knew, and they were acting really weird throughout the party because of it. Trying to get me and him alone, asking me questions about whether I liked him, other dumb teenage stuff. He ended up awkwardly saying, "So, you're human, I'm human, let's be humans together." He tiptoed around the topic for a good 5 minutes before I understood. We ended up, not dating, but we're still close, and we now joke about this all the time. Well, I was once the creep, but not intentionally. The guy I liked now likes me back. Now I can't even look in his general direction without being mad at myself for being such a weirdo to him 6 years ago. I'd write so many notes, draw us together, write stories, at least I didn't show those, thank goodness, and continued even after I saw that he was visibly uncomfortable. Every time I think about it, I feel the need for a memory bleach. Sorry, Ted, LOL, I really meant it all innocently. It was senior year of high school. I was passing out invitations for my graduation party to the people at my lunch table, when a friend of mine asked what I thought about another person. We'll call that person Rick. Apparently, Rick was telling my friend that he had a crush on me. I'm a straight guy, and wanted my friend to bring him as a guest to my graduation party. Now, I'm a pretty liberal person, so I had no problem with the fact that Rick was gay. But I really was not comfortable with him being at my party, so I told my friend to tell him no. Fast forward to my grad party, everything's going smoothly, but then ducking Rick walks in. He signs his name on the sheet where you write tips or messages to the graduate, and then makes his way over to where I'm having a convo with the same friend from earlier in the story. Rick awkwardly interrupts my friend and steers the conversation to how he never got an invite. Now, I've never gone out of my way to talk to Rick ever in my life, so I'm not quite sure why he thought he was going to get invited in the first place, but whatever. After a few painful minutes of discussion on shitty topics, he just blurts out, "So, I heard you were gay and was wondering if you wanted to go out sometime." This is where it got super uncomfortable, as if it wasn't already. And the conversation said this: "Oh, I'm actually not gay, sorry bro, I'm straight." And then Rick says, "No, you're gay. I know you're gay." No, I'm not actually. Why would you come here and try to argue with me that I'm gay? That's not for you to decide. Guys, I've never been more embarrassed in my life, and I still cringe about it sometimes. So, there's like 5 of us, and we're hanging out, and he keeps repeating over and over again, "I think the girl likes me." I really think she does. So, after a couple of hours of him hyping himself up, he decides he's just gonna go ask her out. So, all of us followed him because he's a train wreck of a human being, and we wanted to watch this horrible idea crash. You know, like the good friends we are. He knocked on the family's door at like 9 p.m. and she came to the door, and with his hands in his pocket, by the way, we were like 15 years old at the time, he just says, "Hey, I was just wondering if you'd want to be my girlfriend." She put on the most overly polite smile I've ever seen, violently shook her head back and forth, and slowly closed the door. We then walked home laughing our heads off because he had warned him all day that it's a bad idea. Well, we all laughed except the one who asked her out. Okay, so there was this one guy I went to theater program with, on the outskirts of town way back in the day, and I guess he had a bit of a crush on me, because he friended me on Facebook and then told me in a message a couple weeks later. The problem was not with the manner in which he told me, but with the fact that at the time he was 16 years old and I was 12. Naive as I was back then, even 7th grade me had the sense to notice that this was a giant red flag. Yeah, he turned out to be a total creep a couple years later.